Well, hello there, viewers. We have an exceptionally special guest in the studio today. His father was known as the King of Soul, and today we are joined by Otis Redding III. How are you?
Very well, man. Pleasure to be here. Nice to be here.
I think by now our view is given away with your name, Otis Redding III. Your father is very, very well known to our viewers. The music that your father produced was exceptionally inspirational, and it's a time during his generation as well.
Yes, very, very timeless music. Yeah.
And you're in the music industry yourself?
Yes, I'm in the music industry. I started very young, very much overshadowed by my father, but it's a blessing to be the son of a legend and to not so much try to follow in his footsteps. It's a blessing to be able to do what I like, you know, and I really love music, and started playing when I was about 8 years old, and got my first record deal when I was 15. I was really following my brother Dexter, my bigger brother, and he started playing guitar when he was around 11. I wanted a guitar. So we just started doing it. We put a little band together. We got our first record deal when we was 15, and we were pretty much respected funk band called the Reddings in the 80s. We did like 4 albums for CBS and 2 for Polygram, and funk music. You know, it was just, we were able to go on tour with like Rick James, Gap Band, Frankie Beverly and Mays. These are very big and successful funk bands in the United States. So.
Getting into the music industry at such a young age, I mean, how influential was that? Were you always around them? Obviously your father was very well known in the industry. Were you always around musicians from a young age?
Yes, always around musicians. What happened is after my father passed away and my mother started to find herself in the industry, she was working along with Phil Walden, who was my father's manager, and they had Paragon Booking Agency, which booked in all of the Southern rock bands, the Allman Brothers, Charlie Daniels, Marshall Tucker. Not only those Southern rock bands, they booked other bands also, Johnny Taylor. And so my mother was still in the industry, really in the industry. And from there, she had a music store, a record shop. She had a nightclub.
Wow. That
kept us in the loop around people. And when we were living in Macon, Georgia, and Capricorn Studios was the Southern rock mecca. Macon, Georgia was the Southern rock mecca. And my brother and I were able to kind of hang around Capricorn Studios, and some of those guys would tune our guitars, and you know, it would be such a big deal to see those new Fender guitars laying in those guitar cases, and you know, we would have them, and we would say we'd take it to the studio. Our mother would take it down, and well, he'll tune it for you, and you know, it kind of got us started, you know, and from there we just kept doing it. You know, so we put the Reddings together. Yeah.
So from the age of 8 years old, 15 years old, so young,
yeah.
And you were traveling, playing your music, performing your music?
Yeah, from 8 to 15, we were just doing like, you know, like really small circuit stuff, proms, you know, high school things here. Every now and then they would let us sneak in a club and play, you know, and by the time I was 13, 14, 15, my mother had a nightclub and called New Directions, and there was a gentleman that used to, he was the DJ in that club, and he was a drummer for James Brown. His name was John Morgan, and he became the leader of the band, and we put together the Redding Band, and we started to just gig and be like the talent show, gong show band for the club. And a really good friend of my father's named Al DiMarino introduced us to a guy named Russell Timmons, who had a record label that was starting for CBS, Associated Labels, and he came down and kind of handpicked the group, and took us to Washington, D.C., and we got our first record deal. And that's when we released the first album, The Awakening, in 1980. And we started to travel abroad. We went everywhere, Rome, Italy, Finland, the UK, Denmark, and the Reddings. You know, we were pretty well known, established funk band. We were known for making good new funk music. We were the new funk band, you know.
Now, to any of the viewers who may be unfamiliar with funk music, how would you describe it?
Funk music is, I would describe it as that groove that has that space in it. You know, it has that gap, that move in it, that space of music. Whether so in disco, it's just, you know, more dance music is just more so straight ahead. Funk, kind of, you know.
Give us a little, give us a little something.
Gets into the groove, kind of stops and starts a little bit more in a little space, you know. So that's what funk is all about.
How influential was your father's music to the kind of music that you were producing yourself?
Well, I most definitely think that the sound that came from Stax, the drummer that was there, I guess that would have been Al Jackson. If you listen to songs like Tramp, Otis Redding and Carla Thomas Tramp, that is definitely funk music, you know. You know, that's funk, you know, and but then they mixed it with all those great horn parts, you know. There were a lot of great elements of Stax. There are a lot of people that helped create that sound. But I think my father most definitely was, you know, one of the pioneers of Stax that helped create that sound called what they call Stax soul music. You know, you have Motown soul music, you got Stax soul music. And I'm blessed enough to have met Wayne and Andrew, the original Stax horns, you know, the Memphis horns.
Yeah.
And they would tell me my father would come to the studio and he would sing those parts to him. You know, he'd tell him how he wanted it to go. He'd be in the studio, da 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 da. That's how those parts came along. So he helped create it. I give him credit for helping create the Stax sound, you know.
So you have the talent yourself to be producing these kind of music.
Well, yeah. Well, we more or less, my brother and I, we started doing, you know, funk music, and it was totally different because at the time, you know, we were just trying to do what we felt. And from like 1980 to 1988, and when all of that started to kind of like dwindle down and rap music became bigger, you know, we just kind of had to take the back seat for a while and figure it out. And from that point, I was introduced to, I went to B.B. King's club in Nashville, in Memphis. And I did a show with Booker T and the MGs, and I met Eddie Floyd, which was a really good friend of my father's, And at that point, I was kind of searching. You know, we had lost the record deal, and just kind of just bouncing around. And I had a recording studio, and I was, you know, playing around, producing some hip hop records with people. But I worked with Jermaine Dupri, which was, I always knew he was going to be a star. You know, I met him when he was a kid, him and his father, and I did that for a little bit. And other than that, Eddie Floyd took me on the road with him.
What age was
guitar.
this? How old were you?
I was 24, 25, you know, and when I went back on the road with Eddie Floyd playing guitar.
Wow.
And my father's friend, and from that point, I started to realize the impact coming abroad. Coming to the UK, I realized the impact and how much the Europeans really appreciate soul music.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fun, you know, now I really see. So then I had to deal with people telling me, I told you, that's what you should have been doing the whole time. You know? But it's hard to tell a 15-year-old kid that when you're listening to the Brothers Johnson, you know, you're listening to Quincy Jones, you want to make those records because they were not doing that.
In those days, you've got to remember, it's not like today where we have the internet, and you have television, you have satellite TV, you see what's going on the other side of the world.
Exactly.
In those times, you were very confined into your own little area, and that's it, right?
Yeah, we wanted to do what everybody else was doing. But it's a real blessing and a pleasure to know and appreciate soul music.
Yeah. What did you learn from the time that you're from between the ages of 8 to 24 years old? You've been in the industry now for 16 years. What did you learn during that time?
Well, I was smart enough to know that it wasn't gonna last forever, and it wasn't gonna be something that I was constantly watching the industry and how it constantly changed. So as it was changing and as we got midways in the career, I was thinking, well, you're gonna have to start thinking about doing something else and doing soul music and appreciating it. I know that I really love it, but I know being the son of Otis Redding, having the same name, I don't down myself, but I could never really fill those shoes.
Yeah.
The Otis Redding. People ask you all the time, well, can you sing like your father?
Yeah.
No. I'm a guitarist, and no, I cannot sing like my father.
This old town sure got the best of me. This old town caused me some misery. I'm gonna leave this old town. I know I'm coming back to this old town. Everybody, yeah, everybody knows my name. Everything seems the same. Nothing's changed. Nobody wants to lend a helping hand. Nobody won't treat me like a man. This old time sure got the best of me. And this old time caused me some misery. And I'm gonna leave this old town, yeah. But I know I'm coming back this old time.
You said when you were in your 20s, you were struggling to find a record company to sign you and things like that.
Yeah.
Give us an insight, so we don't know about the music industry, so to speak. So what was it the record company are looking for? Is it more sales of tracks, or what is it that you needed to perform?
Well, back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, if you were selling 30 to 50,000 records, and you were on a major label, that just wasn't really enough. But if you're selling 30 to 50,000 records and you're independent, and it's just you, that's very wealthy. It does well. So, record companies were not really feeling these artists if they were not selling, 300 to 500,000 units. If you're not going gold and they're spending a couple $100,000 on you, it's not really worth their time to keep fooling with it.
I mean, we look how generations have changed and come into today with social media.
Exactly.
And you're talking about the numbers of 20 to 30,000, whereas it now just takes a teenager to pick up their mobile phone, record a video and put it on Facebook or YouTube, and they've got millions of views.
Got millions of viewers. And even if you're not getting, the thing about it is, if you're not getting millions of dollars from the views or anything, you're setting a trend, you're creating a brand, and from that brand, who knows, someone else may call you to do something really big. Someone else may see you because you created this image or this character, and all of a sudden, some really big organization has called you to be their spokesperson because of your style, your swag.
Yeah. Now, you've obviously very experienced in the industry. Tell us a little bit about the pressures that you went under. We're talking about you were under pressure from your record company to perform and carry out the sales of your records. How was that for you, going through all of that?
Well, it was kind of like double pressure, because not only did you have to really try to come up with, to compete with whatever genre you were in and be relevant, but we also had people that were saying, well, you had the same name as Otis Redding, and you automatically had people. I had music attorneys and A&R people, and people, well, they just can't live up to that. So sometimes people would just say that people wanted to help us, but people felt like it was a lost cause because they knew that we could not really live up to those expectations. We could not live up to being doing what my father had accomplished, you know. So now I don't even think about trying to do that. I just do music. I enjoy what I do. Mostly today, you know, we really concentrate on our foundation for my father, the Otis Redding Foundation, which is, you know, progress through education, enlightenment through music.
I'm depending on you, everything that you do, and I'm depending on you, yeah, to see me through. You know that I love you, and there is nothing I can do but depend on you, little mama. I wanna depend on you.
I have this foundation in honor of Otis Redding, and we talk about his legacy. We're able to have music camps, music workshops for kids, underprivileged kids.
Wow.
And what we do is progress through education, enlightenment through music. We have a singer-songwriter camp that is really outstanding. And I'll tell you a story. There was a kid, when we first started the foundation, my mother was going into the office one day, and this lady was riding by with her son in the car, and she said, she told her son, "That's Otis Redding's wife," and she said, "You should meet her." And they got out, and this kid named Roderick Cox, he got out and he met my mom, and they became friends. And my mother did all the things that she could for him. She helped him get his first really good instrument, his instrument that was not a school-owned instrument, and would help him do things as he went off to school. And Roderick has went on and became one of the top African-American conductors in the United States.
My goodness.
Yeah, Roderick Cox is
Wow.
really doing it now. So
Amazing.
we're proud of Roderick.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned earlier about your mother didn't have the easiest time after your father passed away, and
Not at all.
she had a lot of pressure on her shoulders to keep the family going as well.
Oh yeah, you know, when my father passed away, my mother had to deal with trying to keep her home together, her kids together, and all of the business stuff that was all scattered about that she didn't know anything about. Wow. So it was definitely a challenge for her. I mean, she really went through a lot, and she's doing well. She's still with us, and she's really still holding it together for us, and we're very thankful that we still have our mom to be there.
Brilliant.
And she's teaching us. My sister Carla runs the foundation, and they're there every day running the business. Dexter and I, we more or less do music, you know. And
yeah. Going through those times with your mother, the struggling times when you were a younger age,
yes.
How has that changed? Has that changed your mindset even till today? That's still in you. You obviously seem to never have forgotten those times you went through.
Yeah, well, it most definitely taught me to learn patience. You know, to be patient and just wait, and to most definitely have faith, because you gotta always believe that there's gonna be light at the end of the tunnel, you know. And then after she had to deal with that, she had to watch us all grow up, you know, and it was not very easy for me at some points, you know. After age 25, not having a record deal anymore, not really knowing, and kind of being set up and put in place. And it was like, a lot of people felt like, oh, you really thought it was just gonna always be easy because you were Otis Redding's son, you had a record deal. Well, what are you gonna do now? So I had to start finding myself all over again. And the struggle, there was a struggle. There was a struggle there, you know. And
you see, but just by talking to you, you seem a very humble and down-to-earth gentleman. And I can imagine the pressure that you were under trying to keep up with your father's name, Otis Redding.
Yes.
But you see, you very, very much appreciate your father, what he achieved as well.
Exactly. Well, after, you know, being blessed enough to live as long as I have, having made mistakes in the past, and when you look back on life and you see the mistakes you made and where you are now and how good life is, you have a right to be humble. You know, you really have a right to be humble and appreciate your higher power and keep your faith.
Leaving me, talking about leaving me, talking about leaving me. I don't know where you gonna go. Got my bags packed, baby, I'm going with you. Talking about leaving me, I don't know where you gonna go. Got my bag, baby, I'm going home. It's a cold, cold world, living out here all alone. Sun don't shine the same out here on my own. I don't wanna go back to the way it used to be. Oh, so long ago, before you was here with me, talking about
Faith is key. You've mentioned it now a couple of occasions. Tell us a little bit about the importance of having faith in your life.
I think faith is number one every day, and it's not about being negative, but you also have to prepare yourself for the bad. You know, you have to just be a realist. You have to keep the faith, but you have to always know things are not going to always be great. Things are not going to always go the way you want it, but you have to keep the faith. You have to keep the faith.
Because it seems to me life has its ups and downs, and from one minute you're at the very top, and then the second, everything can be taken from you and you're already at the bottom.
That's right.
But you've got to stay level-headed.
That's right. And if you don't prepare yourself and be aware and be a realist of what can go on, when the bad things happen, that's when people just can't handle it, you know. So if you keep it real with yourself and keep the faith with your higher power, you can handle it.
Excellent.
Yes.
Now we're talking about young musicians. If we have any young musicians who are watching today's program, what sort of advice would you give to them?
I would most definitely say always have a backup plan. Always, you know, just know that, you know, you could put your heart and keep your heart into it and know that you're the best. Always feel like you're the best. Never even have a thought of don't believe in stage fright. Never let anybody tell you it's stage fright. What is that? You know, because if you believe in it, it'll show. Really? You know, and have a backup plan. You know, have a good education. Yeah. You know, and just be humble. Yeah. And be careful what you say to people and how you treat people, because you will possibly need those people again. You know, it happens. It happens to the best of us, you know.
Do you get nervous before a gig? I mean, you've been gigging now for so many years. You've been in the music industry. Do you get? Tell us a little bit about how does that change?
I honestly, it just
comes natural.
Just never happens to me. I feel like people are waiting to appreciate. Yeah. So I don't have time to be nervous. I need to give my best. You know, it's not. I don't know anything about being nervous on a stage. Yeah. I don't know anything about that. Yeah. I'm having a good time. You know, so that's the way I look at it.
It's a very fun show that you perform as well, and it's a real feel-good factor. So if you're feeling down, and that's, I guess, the power of music as well. Yeah. And that would lead me into worship music. Yes. What your thoughts are on worship music, because we talk about having a relationship with Christ. Right. It's one way, I guess, of connecting ourselves with Christ is through worship music as well.
Of course, yeah. I tell you that some of the songs, there's a song that my father does, a traditional version of Amen. And,
oh, wow.
And so I was in Amsterdam, North Sea Jazz Club in Amsterdam. And so we did it, and basically I broke it down, and I was just kind of doing it by myself, and the band kind of filled in, and before we knew it, you know, the whole club was singing, amen, amen. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing. Wow. You know, just really nice, really touching. Yeah. Music is so powerful. Sometimes when I do, there's one particular song that my mother wrote. It was a poem. And my father came home off the road, and she gave him the poem, and after he passed away, the song came out, and the song is called Dreams to Remember. Now sometimes it's kind of difficult to sing it, but what I have to put in my mind is, look, you just didn't come here to be emotional. You came here to do a job, sing the song.
Oh, wow.
But I usually get through it. Yeah.
So your entire family are in the music industry?
Well, my
your
brother
mother
and I are
included?
musically inclined, and my mother's not. She's written songs.
Yeah.
She doesn't sing. Carla, my sister, doesn't sing. I have an adopted sister, Dee Dee. She's a radio host. So,
Yeah.
yes.
The wonderful thing about worship music, you gave the example there of singing Amen, for
Yeah.
example, is it's a great way of evangelizing as well, isn't it? Because
Exactly.
all we want to do is just plant a seed. That's all we're
right.
trying to do is plant a seed.
Exactly.
So we're achieving that through fantastic music such as that.
Exactly. Everybody's got to have a little bit of religion in their life, and religion is so soulful, So
Excellent. We're just coming towards the end of today's program, Otis.
great.
I just want to give you ask if you can just give some inspiration to our viewers today who are watching this program, and just from what you've experienced in your life, just give us some encouraging words.
Believe, believe, believe. Prayer, patience. It's there. It can happen. If you're going through something and you just feel like even if you're just doing something that's the same thing over and over, and why is this not changing? You just have to keep faith, and you have to be consistent about it and believe that it's going to change, and it will change.
Excellent. And if viewers want further information about your foundation, what is your website?
OtisReddingFoundation.org.
And your own website as well?
OtisReddingThe3rd.com.
Excellent.
Yes. And of course, OtisRedding.com. That's the main website, OtisRedding.com. But if you go to the foundation website, which is really what's important to me, is it will lead you to everything else that you need to know about Otis Redding and the Otis Redding family and the legacy.
Wonderful. Otis Redding III, thank you so much indeed for joining us. You've been a great inspiration.
Good to be here.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Okay. Thank you also to our lovely viewers for joining us today. Please do remember Revelation TV has a catch-up service, so if you want to watch this interview again, then simply log on to our website, www.revelationtv.com. Take care and God bless. Bye.